Welcome to Epic Stage Journeys and Then Some. And now, here's your host, Gavan.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We've got this guy here. We tried this before and something didn't work. I don't know something went to hell on us, and so we're going to do it again. And this guy is a good friend. He's a great drummer. He taught me that drop dick Texas shuffle, and I've never forgotten it. And I think I can still do it. I haven't played in so long, I don't even know if I could do it or not anymore. But this is Mr. Doug Swancy over there. Doug, how are you?
Doing great, man. Great to see you.
It's good to see you. So what's been going on, man?
Well, as they say, same old shit.
Same old shit.
Different day.
Different day, yep.
By the way, that shuffle that I taught you, you almost had the title of it right.
I almost did, but I had to change it.
That was the PC version of the.
Yes, it was. It's very PC.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm doing good.
Good.
I hope you're doing better than you were.
I'm working on it. We're still working on it, so we're getting there. But so you are. Let me see. You God, I saw you. God, I haven't seen you in forever. And you were playing, and then you went to. Where did you and your wife go to? You guys moved out of the country for a while.
Well, the whole horrid story starts like this. See, I played with, the last band I played with full time was Kenny Traylor, and I played with him from about 2000 to about 2006.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then Kenny, he just kind of give up. I love Kenny. He's the best guy in the whole world. But he just got burnt out, and so he just kind of quit. Didn't really do much. Matter of fact, I talked to him not too long ago. I was doing some shows with Jerry Clark, and we had special guests and stuff, and I thought, Kenny would be a great special guest, but nobody's seen him in a long time. So I got a hold of him and, mainly to see if he's still alive, and two, to ask him about that. And he said he couldn't play anymore because of his hands, and something was wrong with his hands, and that he couldn't sing anymore. So that was a bummer.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sucks. Kenny was, when I first started doing live music at the bar, Kenny was the very first guy that played for me.
Really?
And I loved him to death. He was just a great guy, great player, great singer. He was just all the way around. He was just perfect. And that sucks to hear that about him, because I always liked Kenny. He was a good guy.
Kenny's a good guy as there ever was, man. He's me and him never had a crossword about anything. And if anybody that knows me knows, that's pretty rare. So,
yeah,
I like things a certain way. And, if that's not the way you like them, then we're probably going to have a problem. So
I can say this: you are the one person that we were doing a jam at the club, and I was playing, and I did something. I don't know what I was doing. I was playing eighth notes on something or something, and you walked up onto the stage and stood right in front of me, and you pointed at me and you said, "Don't do that." You turned around and walked right off and never missed a beat. And I went, shit.
And did you ever do it again?
No, never again did I do that.
There you go.
It worked. It did. It worked. And it was so funny because you came up to me later and you go, I just realized that I just walked up and yelled at the owner of the bar not to do something. And I said, I don't give a shit. You got the mission across. I mean, you got the point across, and it stuck, and never did it again.
It certainly wasn't the first time or the last time I ever yelled at a bar owner. And second of all, but I meant it in a loving way. I meant it in a loving, educational way, not a mean way. Because you're a good dude, man.
It was loving and it was firm, but you got the point across, though.
At all the club owners that I've worked for over the years, there's one or two that I would say we're good people, and you're one of them. So,
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I tried to be good to everybody. It was fun. It was it was challenging at some point. Of course, you had to go and desecrate the bar, and I think a pool table on top of that and something else. But anyway, that
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I know. You sure you
But
don't?
just don't check
We'll leave it
anything
at
with a
that.
black light. Just don't ever do that, because you'll see things you don't want to see, I promise.
No, not going through, not doing that. You know, Tracy brought her. Get this, Tracy brought her phone into me last night. I was laying in bed watching the game or something, and she said, and she showed it to me. She goes, "Is that the den?" And it was a picture, and I went, and I couldn't tell at first, and I had to kind of focus it. I blew it up a little bit, and I said, "I'll be damned, it is it." And it's still open. I mean, but the outside of it has not changed one bit. It looks exactly the same as it did back in '97. So, I mean, that's been a long time.
That doesn't surprise me, and I guarantee if you went inside of it and you checked the black light, you still find some of my DNA in there somewhere, because
But
they probably never
the
even
ins-
vacuumed it since then.
probably not. And the bar still, and then I flipped over and there was another page and there was a picture just of the bar, the backside of the bar. And I looked at it and I said, "Yep, that's it. That's exactly it." And
Well,
I couldn't believe it.
back in those days, man, those old bars, a lot of them in Fort Worth were owned by a company called City Vending, and they would lease them out to these. They owned the liquor license, they owned everything. They owned the tables, the chairs, the pool tables, the jukebox, everything. And then you just leased the license and the building from them, and you had your club, see. And they all looked alike. They all had these round imitation wood tables with these padded chairs with wheels on them, and they had this red carpet that's had 1,000 beers and cigarettes and everything else spilled on it, and puke and everything else. And these same old 6-foot long pool tables. They all looked exactly the same, and they had one light bulb in the place that worked. And the minute you opened the door and walked in, you were blind because you come from the outside where the sun was out, and to the inside, it's like super dark, can't see anything
It's
for the
dark.
first 30
Yep.
seconds. And, it was just
That's
they were
exactly what
cookie
I
cutter,
had.
man. They all looked the same.
That's exactly what I had. That old man that I leased that bar from, he owned the liquor license and he did all the vending inside. The deal was is that I rented it from him and he got he took the money from the vending, which I fought with him about that for a while, but I just I couldn't win on it. And his deal is that the money he got from the vending machines paid for the liquor license. It renewed the
Right.
license every year.
Right.
And which was yes and no. I mean, that was a interesting way to do it, but he made so damn much money off those vending machines. I know that he could have bought that liquor license 3 times over with all that. And I always
Yeah.
thought, you should cut me a little bit out of it, but no, he wouldn't do it. But
No.
it was
No,
exactly
they're not
like you
gonna do
said,
that.
though. No, hell no.
No, they're not gonna do that.
He'd been
Those
in that business for,
city vending in Fort Worth was more or less mafia, you know?
yep.
They were like the
Mhm.
mafia of Fort Worth. They controlled anything to do with the club scene for many years.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know if he was
But
in on that one, if he had his own company, but I do know that that's exactly how it ran, though. I got to use the building, and he took care of everything else, license and all that crap. And then I think I put that jukebox in or something, and that pissed him off because somebody else put that in. It wasn't his. And or it was one of the games I changed out or something, and that just really just rubbed him wrong, and I had to switch it back, and so that was all of the license and the vending in there was off limits. Everything else I could do whatever with it,
right.
but and we did
And
some
we did.
things, but oh yeah, we did we did quite a bit.
We did a lot of whatever we wanted.
Yes, we did. Probably
But
did way too much.
anyway,
from what
back
we
to the
know.
story, back to your question. And after I've gotten way off track and over here somewhere, I'll try to
That's
get back
all
to it.
right.
So after the Kenny Trailer Band imploded, I've kind of bounced around for a couple, 3 years, playing in various bands with, more or less the sub for the Stars. Nothing real serious. Touched into a little Texas country crap, but man, that just wasn't my thing. The people are different. The clubs are different. I got me a cowboy hat, and I'll never forget I was sitting in this bar in Dallas. I forgot the name of it. It's over like in Deep Ellum, but it's a real famous country bar that's got writing all over the walls. I mean, it's a real dump, but a lot of famous people played there. But I
Trying
never
to think
forget I
which
was
one
sitting
it
there and I had my
is.
cowboy hat on, and I was playing with a guy named Nate Kipp, and um, this guy comes over to me. He says, "Where'd you get that hat?" Bought it. He's like, "You can't wear a hat like that, man." I said, "Well, I am. I'm wearing a hat." He's like, "Well, man, it's this hat, man." And he just start getting pissed off. His hat, every 10 seconds, he got a little madder about my hat. He didn't know I was in the band. He thought I was just some dude with long hair and a beard wearing a cowboy hat, and he didn't like it. So I finally got up and I said, "I got to go to work." And I got up and I walked straight up the stage. He never said another word to me. But just me sitting there, the way I looked with that hat on just pissed him off. And I thought,
Was
I
it the
said,
great big hat you used to have? You used to wear at the bar
"Yeah,
all the time? Yeah,
well,
okay, I remember that.
it was a big black hat because it was winter, but it was a big hat.
Hmm.
But it wasn't the big potato chip hat like you're talking about. I know which one you're talking about."
Yeah, you like those big
So I thought
hats.
to myself, man, this is just not my people. I'm going to end up getting a fight. And, these guys, they play for keeps. When they're going to fight, they're going to beat the fuck out of me. And so about 2010, I told Nate I was moving to Costa Rica. Because we'd been going
That's
down
where
there
it
since
was.
98. 2006, we built a house down there. So we moved to Costa Rica for a year, me and my wife,
Oh,
two
so
kids.
you built a house down there?
We built a house in 2006, moved down there in
Okay.
2010, and nice house. I mean, you built a house down there. It's 2 stories, swimming pool, outdoor cooking area. It was really nice. Um, but man, you can build a house down there for a fraction of what you could build a house for here at the time.
Yeah.
Now, the way they built it just about gave me a heart attack. Every time I'd look, they was doing something crazy. And, but that's just the way they did it. And so I'm jumping around down there like a crazy man, crazy gringo. And, but so we went down there. I'd gotten the bright idea to go in the fishing business. And to this day,
Yeah, that's right.
I can't even mention the word boat around my wife or she'll have a fit. That's, boats are off limit for life for me. I hired this captain. He's a Canadian dude who was living down there, and we bought a boat. Of course, it was a huge piece of shit. And, it was months before we ever took anybody out, and we spent thousands of dollars trying to get this boat fixed. I had to order new engines from Florida, and I had them shipped down.
Oh my
It was
God.
it was nuts, man. So we went down there with $125,000 in cash, right? Thinking, well, shit, it's cheap to live here. It's this, it's that shit. We blew through that like shit through a goose before you knew it. And, February of 2011, we tucked our tail, give up, moved back to Weatherford. Luckily, I kept my house here. It was not a dime. We didn't have a dime to our name.
My gosh.
And this is a true story. I always like to tell this story because it's a rags to riches, to not rags again, rags to riches story. But we came back without a penny. Me and my wife, we would, I borrow a little money from my mom. I'll never forget her. I'd borrow like $20, and we'd take that $20 and we'd go to these garage sales on weekends. I'll never forget one weekend we went to 53 garage sales,
Oh,
and we'd buy something. And if I could buy it for $1 and thought I could sell it on eBay for $3 or $5, I'd buy it. And that's how for about 6, 8 months we lived.
Wow.
And it was not a good time, not a good scene at all. So when I was in Costa Rica, I saw these little vehicles. And I remember seeing one in Thailand when me and Holland went to Thailand back in the 90s to play. They had these little Japanese vehicles running around, little mini trucks, they call them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were Suzukis and Daihatsus and Mitsubishis and stuff like that. But they're just tiny little vehicles. And then I saw them again in Costa Rica. And I noticed down there they were four-wheel drive. So when I got back here and we scrounged around with the garage sale shit and all that for a while, I thought to myself, I got to find out, I got to do something. Or, I often think about the musicians that I've known that, everybody thinks, oh, you're doing well, you're doing good, you play with so-and-so, you got a record out, you're that. Then they get sick and they have nothing and they have to have a benefit. And then
Yeah.
you die and they have to have another benefit to bury you. And I always think, man, I don't want to be that guy. So I got to do something. So I borrowed $20,000 and I started this mini truck business. And what I did was these mini trucks are regular vehicles in Japan, but they're not legal here. But over the years, a few have trickled into this country. So what I did is I started buying these junky little mini trucks around the country, like off of Craigslist and stuff, having them shipped in, fixed them up, and sold them. I sold 11 of them. And I thought, well, that's proof of concept right there, in my opinion. So then I got hooked up with a company in Japan where I could buy them direct from Japan and have them shipped over. So now we're shipping these junky little trucks over, working on them and selling them. Well, fast forward, I took that $20,000 investment, and as time progressed, we just kept putting the money back into the business, and we finally got to the point where we could buy brand new trucks. I got hooked up with dealerships in Japan. We're buying brand new trucks. We were the first dealership in the country to actually bring in brand new trucks. So we brought these trucks in. We'd rig them up for hunting and off-roading and ranching because I'm over here in Weatherford. I'm right where all the big horse ranches are and hunting and all that stuff. And we'd sell them. So what we did is we took a $20,000 loan and turned it into $25 million worth of sales.
God almighty. I knew that you had started doing the little truck thing. I'd see your stuff on social media, and I always wondered, I said, what in the hell's he gotten himself into it? And they're not street legal here in the States, are they?
No, as a matter of fact, they weren't for many years. They just passed a law recently in Texas that you could drive them on the street if they were 25 years or older. But that's not where the money's at. There's so much involved with that business of inland shipping in Japan to a port and then shipping, across, we used to do them in containers. Matter of fact, I unloaded containers, over 40 containers of mini trucks in front of my house over the years. Then we did them on roll on, roll off. They just drove on, drove off. Same way they bring cars from Europe or Japan, from dealerships and all, or, from manufacturer to dealerships. And that made it a little easier. But the money is the new trucks because these big ranches and these farmers and these hunters, guys that, every guy that's a successful doctor, lawyer, or Indian chief wants a ranch. That's the natural progression. So then when they buy a ranch, they want toys. So that's where we come in. So we sell them something that looks real badass, does real good jobs, got heat and air conditioning, because, doctors like air and heat. They're not used to work. So, and you can make a hell of a lot more money off a new one than you can an old one because of all the money involved getting them here and everything. But we did that from 2011 to 2023. In September the 8th, 2023, a guy here in Weatherford that owns a big car lot approached me and said, hey, man, that mini truck business you got's great. If you ever decide you want to sell it, let me know. And I looked like this, and I thought for about 2 or 3 seconds, and I said, "I'd love to sell it to you." So we sold our company, lock, stock, and barrel, signed a 5-year non-compete contract, uh, took that money, invested it in downtown historical buildings, 4 of them, restored them all. The newest building we own is 1908. So, uh, and hired a property management company to maintain the whole deal. And here I sit.
And so you just lease the buildings downtown, and you just sit on a pile of money and that you made from selling trucks, and you're just just a happy camper,
That's it. I
which
don't,
I think is
you know,
great.
and so what happened is when I had the mini truck business, and people call me 4 or 5 in the morning. Hey, my mini truck won't, now these are good old boys, you know. Hey, my mini truck won't start. What are you going to do about it? Huh? You know? And so it got to be a really huge pain in the ass because my phone was on 24/7, and, there's people accusing you of everything in the world. I got my tires flat. What am I going to do? I don't know, put some air in it. I don't know. So the guy came along at the right time at the right price to buy it before I lost my mind. But during that time when I was working, when we had the mini truck business, I didn't have time to play. If I want to go play music, I can go play music in Fort Worth for $50. While I'm out making $50, could be losing thousands here
Yeah.
by me not being here. So I decided I'm not going to play anymore. So I didn't play. And
Well,
then when I sold the business,
I ran into Johnny at Fred's in Fort Worth one time. They were playing up there, and we saw that he was playing up there, and I thought, well, we'll swing by and see him. Maybe Doug's playing too. But then when I talked to him, he said you weren't playing anymore. He said you had some problems with your feet or
well,
something. But
there was 2 stories there. Two things happened almost simultaneously. About the time that the mini truck business started getting up and running good, John had this idea of doing just a Tuesday night thing at Fred's called the Aggravators, with me, him, and Jimmy Slack. So we started doing that on Tuesday nights, and I'm on the phone, like this between songs. I'll look at my phone, see if anybody's texted me or emailed me, about a mini truck, and then my legs started hurting pretty bad. My feet started hurting pretty bad. And I thought, I better just go do my thing for now. So since then, I've had a couple of procedures on my legs and my feet, and they're much better. It was like varicose veins. It was like my feet are flat and, all that shit. But then, so I decided, not to play after that. But then we sold the business. I thought, well, look, I can go play every once in a while. No pressure. I don't have to worry about, making money and supporting a family and all that. I can just go do it for fun. Plus, you know, back in the old days, when we were in bands, you have to eat a lot of shit. And I really got tired of the way shit tasted. So now I go out and play. Somebody yells at me. I tell them, fuck off, and I pack my shit up and go home.
I'll back up and go home.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained, man.
Do you still
And
have the drums with the flames on them?
no, I sold those years ago.
Did
I
you?
sold those years
Okay.
ago, and the guy wanted me to autograph them before I sent them to him.
I love those drums. Those are so cool.
What happened is, well, in 2006, we had a house fire at my mom and dad's house, and I had a lot of stuff stored there, and it burnt to a crisp, and I lost all of it. I mean, I lost like maybe 10 or 15 sets of drums and maybe 20 or 30 snare drums.
God.
So after that, I bought some more stuff, and then I got down to like, one drum set, and it's set in the garage for 10 years. And then I thought, I'll go back and play some more. So we started going to Europe, me and my wife, since we were pretty much set in life, and she likes traveling. And so we started going to Europe, and went to Paris. And man, the music scene in Paris. This is 2023, the first time we went to Paris, and I think it was January of 2023 was the first time. And man, the music. Of course, I went to Europe with Holland before, but we didn't go to Paris.
Mm-hmm.
But the music scene in Paris is incredible. Man, it's
Really?
unbelievable. The people there, the kids. I mean, I play at a club there that's very famous. It's called the Caveau de la Huchette, and it's in a basically a Knights of Templar dungeon from the 1500s. Is where the people are and the
Wow.
bands play. And I mean, on a Monday night, they have a Monday night blues jam there. There'll be 300 kids there dancing, and they never stop. And they never stop screaming, yelling. They never sit down. They got their hands in the air. They're having the biggest time of their life. And we're playing the same shit that we play here, and nobody gives a shit.
Nobody cares.
And over there, they're on fire. So I made some friends over there. Bobby Chitwood, world famous bass player from the DFW area, moved to Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Bobby
Really?
very well. So the first time I went, we got together and he said, "You got to come down here. I'm going to introduce you to all these people. We'll get up and play and all that stuff." And I'll never forget, there's a guy, a very famous blues guy there named Big Dez. He's a big gomer. This guy's like 6'6", 325 pounds. And I got up and I played a shuffle, that famous shuffle that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I said, I hadn't played a note in 8 years. And he said to me, he said, "Sounds like you hadn't played in 8 minutes." So, man, from that point forward, I started getting gigs in Paris. In a year and 2 months, we went in between January 23 to March of 24, we went to Paris 4 times. And we're going back again. We went, let's see, we went last June, stayed for a month. I'm going, March, stay for 2 months and do some more playing and just hang out with the people and, drink some beer and go up to jazz clubs and listen to gypsy jazz and, just hang out and do my thing.
Well, it was kind of, I've never been to Europe, but I was always under the impression that people in France didn't like Americans. So,
Well,
I had no idea.
uh, I've always heard that too. I've always heard the French are rude. I've always heard that they hate Americans. Always heard all the things that everybody hears. I always heard they stink. They don't take a shower. Blah blah blah. That's all total BS. Total BS. They are some of the nicest people I've ever met anywhere. I mean, I go to this little club north of Paris. It's at the flea market. They have a huge flea market up there, and they have this club up there, and it's literally blocks from where Django Reinhardt grew up, and it's all gypsy music, gypsies, mostly guitar players, saxophone players, violin players, stuff like that. And the saxophone player he plays there every weekend. They're only open on Saturday and Sunday. He told me last time he's there, he says, "Man, you're like family to us." Every time I've ever been there and it's on my birthday, they bring out a birthday cake for me with candles. I didn't know I was going to do that. My wife didn't know they was going to do that. They just know, and they bring out and the band plays happy birthday and all that. And they're just the nicest people.
That's amazing. Never would have thought that, blues was such a huge, thing over there. Like you
Dude, it's
said,
it's it's beyond huge. Um, it's epic, man. It's everybody that goes over there. Do you know who Tommy Taylor is? He's a drummer. He was a drummer for Christopher Cross. He's a drummer for Eric Johnson.
I've heard the name. I don't think I know much about him, but I have heard his name before.
Well, November of 23, I'm over there playing 3 nights in a row at the Cavo de Huchet with 2 guys from Spain and Bobby Chitwood. Tommy Taylor walks in the place. Now, this is a guy that he's on every Christopher Cross hit, and he's on every Eric Johnson hit. He's got a stack of gold records. He walks in, and he's with some other dude, and we're right in the middle of our set. And set's over, I step off the stage, and he's standing there, and he said, I told my friend when I walked in the door, I said, that drummer is not from France.
He had you pegged really quick.
Yeah.
So
But,
what
they're
is the difference? What is the difference, say, between, you and a drummer from France? Is it?
This is a real easy one. That's a great question because I have pissed off a couple of, well, especially one club owner over there or two, because you know me, Gavin, I don't phone anything in. I don't half-ass do anything. I come to play. And you're going to get the full deal, no matter if there's one person sitting there or 80,000. So drummers in France, they use drumsticks that's about as big around as a number 2 pencil. And Danny Cochran always called it pity patting. They're just pity pat, pity, just barely can hear 'em. I come in, I bash. I'm a basher.
Yeah.
I'm not,
Yeah,
I'm
you
knocking
are.
it out, man. I'm playing like every night's Carnegie Hall. And the drummer, the dude that owns the Caveau de Huchet is a drummer. Okay, so the cool thing about Paris is every gig they have house drums. I don't have to bring anything. I bring sticks. That's it. But every club has a house drum set because they're down in these basements. All these clubs are underground, and it would take forever to get a drum set down there and get it all set up. So everybody's got a house kit, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the kit belongs to the owner. The owner's the drummer. Well, I already see a problem coming, And so I get down there for those 3 nights that we did with those dudes in Spain, and I get down there and there's no cymbals. So I went upstairs, I found the owner, and I said, hey, there's no cymbals. Oh, I got in my office. I'll bring them down. He brings down these cymbals, right? And he brings me a pair of hi-hats, a 22-inch ride, and a 20-inch ride. And I said, his name's DDA. I said, DDA, there's no crash cymbals. He says, well, this is what I got. Okay, it's going to be loud. So I set up the 22-inch ride, and I set the 20-inch ride up for a crash, and I just started banging that sumbitch all night long. They were losing their mind. The crowd's going crazy. I got my shirt unbuttoned. I'm sweating like a pig. And man, we just went to town on it. Well, I got some feedback on that later. He wasn't too impressed with me crashing his ride cymbals and playing like a maniac. That's what I do.
So did he have to put new heads on the kit after you got done with it?
No. Not really bashing, just playing aggressively. With
you always did.
with purpose.
Uh-huh.
So these tippy tappy, pity pat little jazz drummers over there, what they do is they think they can play blues, and so they play blues, but it's all on the beat, and it's all regimental, and it's all, there's no grease in there, there's no slop, there's no behind, it's all on top, it's all just really precise. And another thing they want a drum solo every song. It's like, some guy said, you want a drum solo? I said, I've been soloing all night. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I was like, I don't need a drum solo. What the hell for?
Are you still there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here. I had to lock these wheels. I was rolling all over the place here.
Were you rolling away?
Yeah, I was. I kept going backwards. I was like, well, damn it.
I thought you didn't like my story, or maybe you just, leave.
No, that was great. I mean, uh, you kind of gave him a taste of what it, what it's like, in other
And
places. And
the strange thing is but when I go back, hey, let's get up and play. Hey, I want you to play. They're like, hmm, you know, it makes them think, maybe there is a world of drummers other than Paris.
yeah, oh yeah, and it's funny that he walked in and he knew exactly when he heard you playing that you weren't from Paris.
Yeah, because I was playing that drop dick shuffle, man. It's a Texas signature. That's something that you got to be from Texas or you can't do it.
It took me a while to get it, but I finally figured it out. And I,
Well, it's sloppy, Gavin. It's
but
greasy.
it's supposed to be though.
Exactly.
It,
That's what gives
it's
it the
supposed to be
swing and
that
the
way.
soul, man.
Yeah, because you guys were, it was always you and, I mean, you and John were the $1 million rhythm section. I mean, it was you guys, you knew each other, you guys could feed off of each other, but it wasn't so precise and tight. It was like you said, there was some slop in there every once in a while. It just had to be. It That's not what blues is about. It's not about, you got to be on time and on top of the beat and this and that and the thing. No, you can be all over the damn place with it, and it still sounds good.
Right. I used to
So it
tell
was
people
it
John
was great.
I used to tell people John could fart and I could tell you what key it was in. But I went to
I
Las
s-
Vegas one time. My brother lived out there, and so I went out there and I was there about 3 months and years and years ago. And I was the only drummer in the whole town that could play shuffle. I mean, I go these deals and I play a gig. I made some friends out there, and I got some gigs, and I was playing with these guys, and these Vegas show drummers from showrooms and stuff would show up, after they got done with their deal, and nobody could play shuffle. They could play all this technical stuff, and they're all this crap, but nobody could play shuffle. And it's that way pretty much everywhere. They think they can, but they really can't.
yeah, it was funny because I sat in with somebody one night and we played a shuffle, and I played it, and somebody come up to me later on. They go, "Where the hell did you learn that?" And I said, "From one of the greats." And who taught you that? And I said, "Well, that's Doug Swancy taught me that." I said, he's the shuffle king, man. And they were going, "Well, this and that," and I showed them how you showed me, and they were going, "Oh, I'll have to work on that." But it took me a little bit to get used to it. But once I did, I mean, it just kind of flows along. And like you said, it's you're just kind of, it gets a little messy in there, but that's just what it's supposed to do.
Well,
And
there was a great guy in Fort Worth when I was growing up. When I grew up in the music scene in Fort Worth, it was way different than they have it now. Now, man, everybody don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You know, oh, that was great. You sounded so good. Knowing in the back of their mind it sounded like shit. Boy, when I grew up, it wasn't that way. It was cutthroat, man. If you went to a jam, I remember going to jam as a kid, trying to play. They'll stop you in the middle of the song until you get off stage.
uh
I literally just walk up. That's enough. Off. Get out. And it happened a lot. I mean, I never forget Bill Ham. I hope you out there listening, Bill. Bill Ham, when I was a kid, of course, Bill Ham's an iconic guitar player. Played with Sonny and Cher, played with Donna Summer, played with Hope. His brother still plays. His brother plays with Ringo Starr right now. But Bill could play jazz at 300 beats a minute. And he'd come up knowing that I can't, and everybody else was young guys trying to learn how to play, knowing that we can't play like that. And he counted off and just wrecked the whole deal, man. He just cleared the stage, man. We just all fall off by the wayside. But during that era, there was one guy who turned out to be a great friend of mine. He's gone now, but his name was Billy Sanders. Billy Wade Sanders. You ever heard of him?
Mm,
Billy
think I have.
Sanders was a guitar player, singer, played 27 years with Delbert. He's on
Okay.
all the hits. He's the guy you hear playing Giving Up for Your Love, the guitar part, starting it and all that. He's the guy. And
Wow.
Billy Sanders loved his cocaine and he loved his beer and he loved his women, pretty much in that order. And about the same time that he's going to these jams, I'm up there, I'm trying to play. He gets up, grabs a guitar. He looks at me and he says, "Can you play shuffle?" And I said, "Sure." Well, we started playing. I couldn't play shit. Uh, he told this story so many times to other people. And then, one day the light switch came on and I could play a shuffle properly. So the next time I saw Billy and this same situation came around, he got up on the stage, he looked at me and he said, "Can you play a shuffle?" And I said, "Hell yeah, can you?" And then we got it on. And man, we shuffled till the sun came up. He played everything in the key of A. And Billy just play and he'd play and he played so great. And we got to be good friends. And I played with him in a band for many times. Got sick, got cancer. They had a big deal for him at Billy Bob's about a month before he died. Delbert was there. Bruce Chanel was there. A lot of big stars. Big deal Billy Bob's fundraiser and everything. Of course, he didn't make it. And about 2 weeks before he died, I went to this apartment he was living in with his wife. His wife's name was Pam. And he had these posters from that event at Billy Bob's. And he says, "I want to give you one of these posters." And he said, "But I'm going to autograph it for you." And I said, "Okay." And during this conversation, he'd have to excuse himself and go to the bathroom and throw up blood and stuff like that. I mean, he wasn't long from leaving.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this. He autographed that poster to me to Mr. Sheffel. I thought, man, we come full circle.
You came full circle there. No doubt.
So that was quite a thing for him to do and quite a thing for him to say, because from where we started.
Yeah, I was going to say it. It was always fun, to have you guys come over and host a jam at my place, or I'd come find you guys. Whether we were out at what the hell is the one that everybody went to on Sundays in Fort Worth? It was J&J's. Good
Yeah,
old
J&J's Blues
J&J's.
Bar. That's a place I was barred 3 times from that place. The 3rd time I barred myself.
Yeah, the owner was kind of different. He was kind of.
I hope he's
didn't
listening
really.
too. Jim Schuessler, you're a king-size douchebag. I hope you're listening.
I remember I didn't know him. I think I'd met him once, and I was thought he's one of those. And I remember that we were over there one night, and they had already closed, and we were just sitting over there talking to the bartender, and it was you and me and the bartender, and we weren't doing anything. We were just sitting there talking, and he came in, and
Ran
he
us
was
off.
pissed. He was pissed off.
Well,
And
that's not the first time that happened. I can't count how many times I walked out of that place with the sun up, kind of like the Den.
Yep.
So he'd always he didn't want anybody to have a good time, so he'd always like to bust up everybody's party. I'll tell you an interesting story about that guy too. about 1989, I was working for Anson and playing at a club in Pittsburgh called the Decade Club. Now, Jim Schuessler is originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Jim always told everybody down here he was a big shot. He worked for the DEA and he was a DEA agent. And, he's a badass and don't do anything because, he's got contacts and he'll get you in trouble. And, you're snorting coke off my bar top and I'm going to turn you in. All this bullshit. So we're at this club, right? This club in Pittsburgh. The minute you walk in, you could tell it's been there for many, many years. So equipment's loading in and everything. This guy walks up to me, blue suit, older guy, pinky ring, slick back hair. One of those guys,
Oh, okay.
He says, hey, he says, I hear you're from like around Fort Worth. Yeah. Now bear in mind, I'm like 25 years old. And got my, my coach's shorts on and my T-shirt with something on it. My dad said one time, you don't own a shirt that doesn't say something on it. So, and this guy says, you ever heard of a fuck named Jim Schuessler? And my eyes got like this. I'm like, yeah. Well, let me tell you something. He's a fuck, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. He says, that guy, he was a kid, and he's running around, bombing cars for us with spray paint cans and shit like that. And he says, he got popped up here, and he turned state's evidence in on all of us. He's a rat. And my eyes got a little bigger. He goes, and the only reason why we didn't kill him is because it wasn't worth it. And I thought to myself, well, damn, Jim, you do work for the DEA. You're a rat. And that's why you're in Texas and not in Pittsburgh anymore. Okay. Now I got the story.
What he was.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I said to him, I got to say to him a couple times, usually when I saw Jim, he was accusing me of something I didn't do. It happened all the time. I could just be standing there and I'd be accused of something. And I got to tell him, hey, man, and I forgot the guy's name. I thought I'd never forget his name, but whatever. I'd say, hey, the guy at the Decade Club told me to tell you hello. I love saying that to him. Got to say it to him a couple times just to put that little something in his mind to think about.
Just make him think about it. When you probably told him that, he probably got a really cold chill running down his spine when you told him that.
I hope so. I hope he did. Yeah.
I just remember we were just sitting in there one night and it was late. It was 3 or 4 in the morning and we weren't doing anything. I was sitting there reading one of the Fort Worth magazines or something, and he came in and he was pissed and he just said, "Want everybody out of here now," and he just threw everybody out. And so I went out.
When he walked into the bar, Gianna just took the oxygen out of the room. It's just like, oh shit, Jim's here. Everybody, their butthole tightens up. He's one of those guys that, there's bar owners that can be in their bar and drink in their bar. And then there's those that can't. He's the one that can't.
Yeah, I had a friend he was a guitar player, and he played up in Missouri. Where was he playing? What's the big place up in Missouri with all
St. Louis?
All the theaters? No, it was with all the theaters and everything. Damn,
Branson.
I hate getting old. Yeah, he was up in Branson.
Yeah,
and I do not remember the theater that he played in, but he was a guitar player and the band leader for quite some time. But he left because he's in Nashville now. But He left because they had an owner that was the owner that didn't need to be in the bar. You know, he needed to just stay away. And he was one of those guys that come in and he was either drunk or he was, you know, doing blow or whatever. And he'd decide he wanted to get up and sing with the band and all this stuff. And Bob told me he finally said, dude, I've had enough of this. He goes, I just can't do it anymore. It was something all the time with him. And he just kind of just bailed and packed up and went to Nashville. So he's doing well out there now. So he's been bouncing around playing with quite a few people out there. And I talked to a friend, Jim Collins, he's a songwriter who lives up in Nashville. He's been up there for 20 some odd years now. He's had I think he told me he's had over 250 of his songs recorded. So he's made a name for himself up there. But even he said Nashville is, and I told him, I said, Nashville's not what it used to be. And he goes, oh God, no, that's since been gone. Music Row's gone, and it's just, and nobody wants to hang out downtown, down on Broadway, because that's just where all the tourists and stuff go and hang out. And, so it's a lot of everything's changed. It's not the same anymore. And I couldn't tell you the last time I was in a club seeing a live band play. God, that's been years ago since I've done that. I was gone a lot with my job, so I traveled a lot, so I just didn't go. I'll tell you the one time I got invited, I was doing an event in Chicago. And one of the guys come up to me and they go, hey, we're all going to Buddy Guy's tonight. You want to go? We're going to go to Legends. And I said, and I was beat. I was tired. My feet hurt. I was like, going, you know what? I'm going to pass. I'm not going to go. And never fails that when I do that, I get burned, because they came in the next day and they was like, oh my God, you should have been there with us last night. And I was like, I don't know if I want to even hear this. And they said, because you could go to Buddy Guy's place and he'd be there. Now, he didn't play. He only played, he only had that one certain time of the year that he played, but other than that, he didn't play.
He's still there.
Yeah. And
yeah.
It's, I've bought him drinks before, but he was, B.B. King was in town. He had come into town to play. And so he came to Legends, and then George Benson was also in town, and he showed up at Legends. So those three got up and jammed that night. And I said, well, of course they did, and I didn't go. I mean, you got these three just top-notch guitar players just up there just wailing, and I'm back in the hotel sleeping like a dumbass. But that was always my story when I would go out somewhere, and I always tried to go. Usually, if I was in Chicago, we at least went to Legends once. But
I spent a lot of time in Chicago, and I went to all those clubs up there. They used to have these clubs. One was called Blues, another one was called Blues, etc. Then they had one called Kingston Mines, and they're all on a street called Halstead Street. And before Buddy had the Legends, he had a club called the Checkerboard Lounge. And I went there one time, and I never felt so white in my life. I was very pale in that place. I looked like a speck of salt and a sea of pepper. And but they were very nice. I went there with another guy from California, and they were handing I'll never forget, they were handing out black-eyed peas with some pork belly in them. This dude I was with from California, he had no idea what any of that was. So we're eating this stuff, and we had some hot sauce and crackers to go with it. They were just handing out food. Anybody wanted it. And I'll never forget, the lady come around, she says, she told that dude from California, can I get you some more? He says, yes, ma'am, I'll take some more of these beans, but I don't want any more of that stomach with it.
Stomach out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, those
I've spent a
Chicago, Chicago one time was a cool town, man. It's a cool place to hang out. I mean, I spent 10 days there one time, and I don't know that I'd like to spend 10 minutes there right now, but
I couldn't tell you the last time I was in Chicago. It's been a while, but I mean, I've got up on my wall. I've got my T-shirt. I've got my T-shirt from Legends that Buddy signed, and I asked him. I said, "Would you sign a shirt for me?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You got to go buy it, but I'll sign it." And you did. You just had to go buy the shirt, and then he'd sign it.
well,
And
he's
he
a
would,
businessman,
and
you
he,
know.
yeah, and you could buy him a drink. He drank. I'd go over, went to the bartender, said, I'm gonna buy Buddy a drink. What's he have? And he goes, oh, Heineken over ice. And I said, well, set him up. And so we bought him drinks and, everything else. And just a really cool guy. But it was just, you didn't, people would come and go, hey, you playing? And you'd see, start getting a little annoyed. People keep asking me, when you going to play tonight? You going to play tonight? Because nobody really just kind of understood his way his schedule worked. And we knew just to leave him alone. We'd buy him a drink and, he'd wave at us and we'd wave back and just do our thing. But you just never bothered him about playing because he wasn't going to do it. Except for the night that everybody showed up.
I've never heard of or seen him play with anybody up there. Now, he'll get up and sing with them. He'll get up and sing a few songs, but he won't play guitar. I think because, he's got his drink in one hand and the microphone in the other. He ain't got time for guitar.
Make a time for guitar.
Where's that gonna go?
That's gonna go down really quick. So have we talked about your brother yet? His music store? You said he still got it?
Yeah, my brother Craig still has Craig's Music here in Weatherford. I heard, me and him don't talk much, but I heard that he's back down there working somewhat, working on amps because the amp technician died. But he more or less left it to his son to run day to day.
Who was his amp technician?
The guy named Rick, older guy.
Okay.
Was in the Navy, and then he was worked at like radio. These guys old. He worked at radio shops when people had their radio worked on. So he wasn't a youngster by no means. Nice guy though, good guy.
A friend of mine, he's a drummer. He was on with us, and they used to have a band called the Hindenburg, and they were a Zeppelin band, cover band, and their guitar player, kind of all of a sudden his name just left me. But anyway, really nice guy, but he worked on amps and he was really good at it. And he was doing that. And after he quit, he wasn't playing much anymore. And that's all he was doing was just repairing amps. And then Leo told me that he passed away. And I thought, well, hell, but he was young. He might've been probably in his 50s when he passed away. So it was,
I'm going to say Rick was probably close to, he's probably 75.
Oh, okay. That's the only reason why I asked that, because I just thought about that and I went, no, it couldn't have been the same person, but that was too bad. I was sorry to hear that he had passed away, but because Leo told me he was really doing well, just repairing amplifiers and stuff. So, but
yep.
I'm just waiting until my number gets pulled.
No, that ain't gonna happen anytime soon. I told you this before we went on the air. That I watched a little bit of your interview on your podcast there with Holland K. Smith, for you people scoring at home.
Mr. Smith, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you something about Holland. I don't have no ill will towards him whatsoever. I've never, any band I've ever been in, no matter what the circumstances were for me leaving or the band breaking up or whatever, I don't ever go around wishing ill will on those people. I figure in the music business, especially local, the more people that are successful, the better it is for everybody. So, Holland and me, prior to me being in the band, were the best of friends. We were, we went out clubbing all the time. Matter of fact, he was married to his first wife, and he'd say he'd have to get a hall pass, and he'd get a hall pass, and he'd come out, and we'd go to J&J's, and the guy that was the manager of J&J's, Pat, he named us the Toxic Twins. Because, man, we'd go there when the place opened, and we wouldn't leave till they run us off. And in between those two times, we were drinking everything they could hand us. So, and then when I got in the band, it changed a little bit. You know, being in a band is like being married to three or four guys or three or four people. And, you know, it's hard being married to one, much less three or four people. So, you know, things went a little south, and, you know, didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, and it didn't end well. But hey, you know, there's people that just they can be friends, but they just can't be in business with each other, or they can't be married to each other, whatever. But you can be friends with them, and it's a situation like that. And dude, Holland, if you're out there listening, you know, and nothing you can say is gonna upset me or make me think any different. You know, I wish you the best. And
You know, he never had a bad word to say about either one of you. He didn't, and we didn't talk a lot about it, but he just didn't say nothing negative or bad about it, either one of y'all. He just said it. You know what? It was just time to go. It was time to let it go, and that's where it ended. And so, and of
well,
course,
I just want him to know that I hold no bad feelings whatsoever, and wish him the best.
I'm sure he knows that. You know, we talked. It was. I told him what was funny was he was the only person I knew that could host a blues jam. He could play the first set, go to jail in the second set, and be back for the third set to close it out.
I'm telling you, that was really, because, you know, I was there. That was really the damnedest thing I'd ever witnessed in my whole life. And I've seen a lot of things, some things we can't talk about even on a podcast. But, yeah, that was amazing. You know, somebody runs in and Holland got arrested. Oh shit. You know, so what are we supposed to do? I don't know. Show must go on, you know, and then, oh, Holland's back. Wow. How did that happen? How do you get out of jail that fast?
Didn't Johnny Mac, he did the second set, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, Johnny Mac was always there. You know that, especially after you open that, little kitchen. And when you open that little kitchen out there next to the stage, Johnny Mac never left.
He was cooking for me there for a while.
Well, he was eating the gravy,
but he
too.
was. Well, he was enjoying it. But he was. That was so funny that he bailed us out of the second set, and then all of a sudden Holland's back for the third, and I said, only you could pull that off.
Unbelievable. Number one, only you could get arrested at the gig, and then only you could get out and get back to it. It's amazing.
He told that story about.
I heard him say that.
He told the story about what happened.
Richard Chalk, he said, was with him. You know, Richard Chalk from Top Cat Records. And, you know, Richard's no longer with us. That was a terrible way that he checked out. But Richard went with us to Asia. He went with us to South America. And he went with us to Europe when we went. Richard was a hell of a nice guy. A really good dude. And I really liked him a lot. Man, it's a bad, bad story. He was playing in Dallas at a jam. And I think he was in the band that was hosting the jam. This is just 3 years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago. And some dude got pissed off at him because he didn't get him up to play, or he didn't let him play long enough, or something. And he chased him down in the parking lot at the end of the night and tackled him from behind and drove his face into the parking lot. Literally broke his teeth out. I mean, really jacked him up.
Jeez.
Now, Richard at this point was older than me and you. So, I mean, somebody jumps me from the back and drives my face into the ground, knocks my teeth out. I'm down, buddy. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
going to hurt really bad. So, this dude that did it, he split, he left. Richard went home, called the cops, filed a report. Oh, they never did shit. They didn't do anything to the guy. Well, just a few days after this all happened, Richard died in his house. He was found dead in his house. And it had to have been I don't know if it was a brain bleed, a small one that just, continued or something. But he dropped dead in his house, and they found him in there dead shortly after that guy jumped him.
Wow. And they never did anything about it, huh?
No. Dallas police,
That's terrible.
please.
That's terrible.
Nope. And matter of fact, I talked to somebody the other day. Oh, I know who it was. It was me and my new partner, music partner. Got to say that now. Danny Fowler, great bass player. We've been playing a little bit with a guy named Michael King and the Icebreakers, and he knew Richard, and he knew this dude too. And I talked to him about this not too long ago, just a couple of months ago, and he said that guy nothing ever happened to him. He's still walking the street. He's still going to the jams. I told him, I
Wow.
said, dude, if that would have happened in Fort Worth at the same time, that dude wouldn't be walking anywhere.
No. That was there was a huge difference between Dallas and Fort Worth. Fort Worth was very entrenched into the blues scene, but I don't think you saw it as much in Dallas.
Well,
I
there
just
still is a
remember
huge
I remember
difference.
I remember spending a lot of time in Fort Worth, but we rarely went to Dallas for anything.
There still is a huge difference. It's like a Mason-Dixon line,
Yeah.
They don't come over to Fort Worth. We don't go over there. It's like you're a country apart or something. There's an old bass player named John Williamson. Did you ever know him?
Mm-mm.
This
Okay, I
guy,
did.
character, huge character. This guy, he's moving fast all the time, if you know what I mean. And he's just crazy. He told me one time playing a gig, and he was playing with it, and it was in Dallas. It was in Deep Ellum, way on top of this building, and you could look out. It was open, like an open patio on top of the building. And with the
Mhm.
drummer where I'm sitting, I could look behind me and look down to the street. So I see this Lincoln pulls up, and it's really low in the back, and it's him, and he's unloading his stuff. And I said, "Hey, John, why's that Lincoln so low in the back?" Oh, he said, "I keep a couple of Fender quad reverbs in the back just in case Freddie King shows up to the gig." All right, well, that's good. And he told me, he said, there's only one guy in Dallas that can play the blues. I said, "Who's that?" He said, "Anson." He said, the the rest of them can't play shit. He said, "And I think Anson's really from Mars. He couldn't be from Dallas."
You played with Anson for a while, didn't you?
Strange story about Anson. In 18, oh, I'm not that old. In 1989 and 90, I worked for Anson. I had buses, and I leased him a bus, and I drove it. So, and then after that was over, and we started the Prowlers with Pat Boyack and John Garza and all that, and then
Mm-hmm.
my career moved forward. About early 2000s, Anson called and he needed a drummer, and I went to Florida with him. Did a little tour with him, played with him and Sam Myers. Anson's still a great friend. He's still a good guy. He's always been a good guy. He always will be. And he's pretty much the guy that gets it. He's the benchmark for real blues guitar. I always tell people People say, well, he's no Stevie Ray Vaughan. He's no this, he's no that. Anson is the master of space. It's where knowing not to play.
Yeah.
And he never played a note that didn't belong.
That was, I remember when we were at J&J's one night, and I had played and came down there, and you said, come over and I want to introduce you to somebody. And you yelled over and said, hey, buddy, this is Gavan. I said, Gavin, this is Buddy. And I kind of stopped there for a minute. And I went, dude, that's Buddy Miles. And, y'all were just over there just chilling like nothing, and just the greatest guy. And I know it, but drummers hated to see him come in for the jams because he'd annihilate your drum set in one song. You could have heads broken and cymbals bent and everything else. But I'll never forget that I had asked him, I had played, and I asked him, I said, any criticism, I'll take constructive, bad, whatever. And he just said, he goes, you're there. He goes, you got to stay on top of the beat. Stay on top of the beat. And he said, also, he says, a good drummer knows when not to play. And I went, okay, duly noted. And it just like you walking up going, don't do that again. I took that to heart from him. And he's right.
Yeah. Less is more, man.
I listen. I see some of the drummers now, and I'm thinking, what in the hell? And there are some amazing drummers out there, and I've seen videos of these guys and who they're playing with and stuff. But my God, the way they play now, the shit that they throw in and here, and the fills here and there, and yada. And I was like thinking, I'm thinking Buddy's probably rolling over at his grave right now, because it's sometimes it's too much. I think it is anyway, but it's what the younger generation likes, and it's them.
Well, whatever they like, that's not my thing. And, it just depends on what kind of music you're playing and all that. But, Buddy, I'm glad you mentioned Buddy, because that was an unbelievable high point in my life, is actually being friends, not just acquaintances, not just a fan, but actual friends on a first name basis with Buddy Miles.
Yeah.
Buddy Miles, when I was a kid, I had that Band of Gypsies record, and I started hearing Buddy play, and I thought, damn, man, that's good. And then I heard him singing, and I thought, damn, that's real good. And so when I was a kid trying to learn how to play drums, I liked to play that stuff and play along with it. And then my first band I ever had, we did them changes and stuff like that. And I thought, man, that's awesome. And then June the 10th, 1998, my birthday, Buddy came and played at J&J's. And I was there. And I told him, I said, man, they brought me you for my birthday. And from that day forward, even later that night, I ended up with him over at the Booze Fighters Clubhouse, playing drums behind him, and he was playing guitar. And it's like, from that day forward, we were great friends. Go over to his house all the time. I could go knock on his door. I was always welcome. I'll never forget, he had a house over in Briarwood, a really nice, older, rich section of Fort Worth. And he was renting this house over there. And I pulled up one day, and there's about 50 cars parked around his house. And I walk in, and there's like 200 people in his house. I said, buddy, you can't do this in this neighborhood, man. I know you're not familiar with this, but this ain't going to work. The cops are going to be here any second. I'm surprised they're not here now. I said, this ain't going to work. And so he kind of calmed it down after that, didn't have so many people over at once, maybe 8 or 10 or something like that. And he was one of those guys, he never, kind of like a wrestler, a wrestler that never dropped his character. Whenever you see Buddy, hey, buddy, how's it going? I do this to him all the time. I say, hey, buddy, how's it going? Oh, man, I just signed a deal with Sony, and I got me just signed a deal with DW, and they're sending me a new kit. And I said, hey, dude, I don't give a fuck about all that shit. How are you doing? Oh, well, I'm doing fine. And those guys, he was always in character. He's always Buddy Miles. He's always on,
Yeah.
And no matter, you see him in a club. When you saw him walk in a club, man, it was like the door opened and the king came in. He'd have his cane and his hat and his jewelry and everything and his gold teeth. He was never in disguise and he was never under the radar.
No,
But, I got to play with
he
him.
was there.
I played a couple of gigs with him because he always had a spare drummer because he played drums, but see, sometimes he played guitar and he'd go out front, so he needed another drummer. And I did that gig with him a couple of times. And, but just a great dude, man. I sold him 2 cars.
I came across something on YouTube one day, and it was, remember the old, what was it, Midnight Special and Don Kirshner's?
I've seen
he was
all
on one
of those,
those,
man.
He was on one of those, and he did them changes, and I had to watch it, and man, the dude was
it was
all
like
on it.
He was played like that was the last time he would ever play.
Yes, he did. I mean, he had just annihilated the drums.
And
it was
amazing. I envy that because that's me, man. I'm gonna go out there and give it everything I got, And Buddy loved to play. I remember that first night at J&J's when he came to town. He didn't want to stop. Most guys are going to do 275s or 190 or, something like that. And then they're going to pack up and, go to the hotel room or whatever they do, go to the next gig. Not him. He wanted to play all fucking night. Matter of fact, I stand there by the bar and Dave Jeffries looking at me goes, "God damn, man, it's 2:00. I said, "Fuck it, man. Take up the drinks and let him go. Let him play.
Let him go.
Let him go." And he did. He let him go. I swear to God, he played nearly 3:00 in the morning. And then we left and went over and went and played the rest of the night. So, I mean, he wanted to give it all. He was one of those guys that he didn't leave anything on the stage, man. He gave it all. He laid it all out there. He wanted the people to go away saying, "Damn."
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where, he played like if you left and if you left the venue and you died that night, you were okay with it because you had hit the pinnacle of where you wanted to be. And he was just that guy. And it was always, and I always kind of took that attitude, with, when I was running clubs, it was like, if people walk out of here, I want people to walk out of here and think I could die right now and I would be okay with it because we've had the best time. And that's why
I've heard people say, I've heard this many times. People say, you can't front a band from behind a drum set. I thought, well, you never saw Buddy Miles in because he did it. And he could whip the crowd into a frenzy, man, from sitting behind those drums.
Just him going up on stage and sitting down behind the drums whipped everybody into a frenzy because they knew what they were getting ready to see. And it was, I remember we were at J&J's, and I think you guys were hosting one night, and you got me up there playing. What was funny was we were sitting there talking about, and I knew not to say, "Hey, let's play Mustang Sally," because I knew that was going to get your ass thrown off the stage right away. But I was sitting there listening to them, and everything got quiet in the room all of a sudden. I was like, what the hell's going on? And I could see, and on the floor, it was like people started spreading out. It was like the parting of the Red Sea. Well, Robert Ely had come in the building. And he came in and people just got the hell out of his way and he headed right to the stage. And I'm thinking, I'm getting the hell off the stage because no, we're not doing. I thought I don't think I'm way out of my league here with him. But I stayed there and he came up there and he got himself situated and he turned around and looked at me and goes, "Hey, white boy." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Come on, we're going to get funky with it." And I said, "Well, count it off and let's go." And we did. And I only played like 2 or 3 songs with him, but I every time I was around you, I was always running into somebody that was that like Buddy Miles. There was, Robert Ely showing up and playing. There was always something going on around you guys, always.
Yeah, man, that was the scene back then, man. That's where you just
It
immersed
was.
yourself into the scene, man. And I always told people Buddy could play the shuffle heard round the world.
Yep. He was a beast.
Yep.
God, he's
And
been gone for a long
Robert
time
was
now, hasn't he?
Robert was a character, man. Robert was, I don't know what to say about Robert. Robert could sing one blues song and it'd have like 15 blues songs in it. Think about that. What did he say? No.
Yeah, he did that when he walked up and he just turned around and he looked at me and he really firmly said, "Hey, white boy." And I said, "Yes, sir." He goes,
That'll get your
"Here we go. We're going to go."
won't it?
And I said, "All right." It did.
Yeah, I heard that. I was playing at I used to play with a guy named Larry Davis. Larry Davis was a guy from Arkansas that migrated to California like a lot of them did. And Larry Davis wrote a song called Texas Flood. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the first guy to record it on Duke Records in the late 50s. So I went to California. I played with him for a while, and we were playing at a club in Oakland, one of them old concrete block clubs, with a blue door on it and no windows. And if you've ever been to Oakland, California, probably know what I'm talking about. And of course, I'm the only white guy in the band. I'm pretty much the only white guy they'd ever seen there. And so me and the saxophone player, we took a break and we went out in his car, and we're, as I like to refer it, pulling off a bottle of Night Train and a paper sack. And so we're going back in, and he's ahead of me and I'm behind him. We're walking down the edge of this building. We're going to go in this door, it's like the back door into this place. And all these cars are lined up and people are in their cars and stuff. And I hear this guy, hey, no white boys allowed. And the saxophone player was a really light-skinned black dude, He looks at this guy and yells out, "Man, I'm red." And I looked at the guy, yelled out and said, "Me too." And just went in the back of the building.
No white boys allowed in the building.
Shit. That'll make your ass take a dip of snuff. Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah, it will.
I'm about to die.
It was like, I don't remember. You remember Bigfoot Johnson.
Sure.
Those guys. And when Chris Gibson had his bad car accident and he couldn't play for a long time, and I remember I had him booked, and Rusty shows up, or Rusty called me, I think. Rusty Burns called me. He says, "Hey, you know about Chris?" And I said, "Yeah, I know all about it." And he said, "Well, look, he's still in the hospital and he's not going to be playing for a while." And he goes, "Do you want to rebook it, or do you want me to just find a replacement bass player?" And I told him, I said, "Just find a replacement. I trust you. I mean, shit, he's got to know 1,000 bass players." And so that night they showed up that late afternoon, they're setting up, and he goes, "Come here, I'll introduce you to the bass player." And he said, "Hey, Chuck, this is Gavan. Gavan, this is Chuck." Well, it was Chuck Rainey. Yeah. And I'm thinking, how the hell did I get Chuck Rainey in my bar? This is, I mean, he played on that little album called Asia by Steely Dan. I thought, wow. And so, I found out he lived in the mid-cities, nicest guy on the planet. And then one night we were at a jam somewhere, and I don't know who was hosting it, but it was Rusty was up there. Rex Money was playing keyboards. I don't remember who was playing bass. And I don't remember who's even playing drums, but I got called up, and so I went up there and I was sitting. We were waiting as they were changing, and Rusty said, "Well, I'm going to get down." And then Buddy Whittington got up to play, and I went, "Shit, I don't know about this." And then I'm talking to Rex because Rex was kind of off to my right shoulder, and I'm kind of talking back and forth with him, and he was going to stay playing keys, and we wait for the bass player to come in. Well, Chuck Rainey gets up to play the bass, and I stood up and I went, "Nope, I'm out, I'm gone."
Yeah,
and
I don't blame you.
And I
don't blame you, buddy.
I could hear Rex behind me going, "Nope, sit down, nope, 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 sit down," and I'm like going, "Rex, and he goes, Evan, he goes, "So where's this going to happen?" He goes, "You're going to leave your dick in the dirt." So he goes, "Let's just go with it." I still remember Rex yelling at me because, Chuck is just kind of right in front of me, and I'm watching him play, and I'm just amazed. He's so smooth, and he's just
It's
nothing
effortless,
to
man.
it. I mean, it was just like I'm walking down the street, and I'd hear Rex go, "Hey," he goes, "Get back, catch up." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Catch up, you're getting behind." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." But I got lost watching Chuck play. It was, I mean, back then you just never knew who you were going to run into out there.
No, it's not like that anymore, man. It's
No, I
times
don't think it
changed.
is. Yeah.
But hell, I'm glad we're both still here.
Well, we've made it this far, so it was I was kind
Clean
of
living,
amazed.
man.
Yeah, clean living.
Mhm.
Nothing but clean living back then. Good Lord. I hit 40 and I thought, okay, I made it to 40. Let's see where this goes next. And, and you kept going on and going on. And I'm just amazed that I hit the ages that I did. And I went, damn, we made it. Kind of unscathed. I'm a little scathed, but it's not too bad. But Tracy and I still laugh about it a lot, about the good old days back at the den of iniquities, as Holland called it. So
Right.
I'll have to call the new owner and tell them they need to get a black light and go through there and just check check everything and make sure it's all.
Yeah, they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that.
Oh shit! When you told me that way back, is, "Hey, I left you a little something on the carpet," and I went, "What?" And I was like,
well, things got a little wild there. Things got a little wild.
"Oh shit!" And I was like, "Oh my God, what did you do? I don't want to know what you did. We'll just leave it at that." And then I don't remember who the little barback was, that little Mexican kid that worked for me. And then we kind of found out where he hid his stash, and so then then we were cleaning him out. He knew it was us. He said something to me about it. And he goes, "Hey," and he took me back to where he was. And he goes, "What's this?" And I was like, "I don't know anything about it. Sorry."
Yep.
But he knew exactly what we were doing. That bar had a lot of history to it.
This has been a great time, man. I enjoyed talking to you as always.
Yes, always, man. Once I get up moving again, I got to get out to Weatherford because you're not that far from me.
Okay.
And we're about, I think you're maybe 20 some odd miles from me. So I've looked it up, and it's not far. I need to get up there, and I want to get up there and see you, go have lunch or something, because I know you got plenty of time on your hands. So
yeah. All right, brother.
But, I do appreciate you taking the time to jump on with me a little bit so we could visit and see how we were doing. And we've actually let everybody know that we actually survived it and all. So
yeah, man, and we did, and it's been a pleasure.
It has been. It has always been a pleasure, and I hope we get to see each other again soon, because we still got a lot of catching up to. We got a lot of catching up to do about stuff that we really didn't need to be talking about on here. So
for sure,
we had to leave a few things in the vault. We just can't get it all out. So
right. All right, my friend.
But again, ladies and gentlemen, the great Doug Swancy. Doug, if you will just stand with me just for a few minutes afterwards. And other than that, guys, thanks for joining us. Doug, again, thank you for taking the time to step in and just, shoot the shit with me for an hour or so. And we'll
Yes,
catch
sir.
up
It's
again.
been a pleasure.
Again, it has been, again, the great Mr. Doug Swancy.
Thanks for joining Epic Stage Journeys and then some. Stay well, and we'll see you down the road.